Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again. My name is Nicodemus Kane. Today is November the 21st, 2022. Apparently, I haven't recorded anything for 10 days as far as the timestamps that I've seen. I did say the last video that I was possibly going to be taking a week off, and we did. Last week was rough. We had we had a lot of things going on, but not the least of which my mother passed away on Wednesday, and we have been doing everything we can to. There's there's no easy way of saying it. Doing everything we can to reconcile her estate. She left a lot of problems. She had a lot of things going on. Before we get anywhere else, I do want to say this that this is going to be it's going to be a little emotional for me talking about this. I have definitely noticed over the past week that I've had my points where I have had to just completely break down and accept my emotions about this. You know, I never never thought that this would happen. Now I always figured that my mom would always be there. She just refused to give up. But at the same time, we have been finding out that she had just let things go for such a long time and was really having problems. I don't know exactly how to start this. I don't know exactly how to say it, how to get into this. I want to talk about it. I need to talk about it. I have to have a place to talk about it. I just don't know how to. I don't know how to start. I guess mom was 65 years old, and that's pretty young by some people's standards. She had developed they call it neuropathy, which is your nerves and your nerve endings start dying out in your extremities, and it causes constant pain and constant struggle of movement. Um, and she was having to have these treatments that I always didn't know if they were doing any good or not. She always said she felt better, but parts of her body were constantly breaking down. And I was always wondering if the treatment was worse than the disease. But she was always in pain. She always struggled constantly for more than half of her life. She had this disease, this blood problem. I don't know exactly how it worked, but she was always in pain. She was taking these treatments to help her out, and they would help her. They would let her get up and move around and walk, and eventually, what started happening was she started developing infections. Um, I don't know exactly how, but again, I ask the questions constantly. Are these treatments that you're taking, are they causing these infections? Are they keeping your body from naturally fighting these infections? And what would happen is she would get infected in places where your body was putting out all the junk, like your fingernails, um, like pimples, hair follicles, things like that. It wasn't in her hair so much, but when she would get an infected hair on her face, it would it would turn into a thing. It would be pretty serious. Um, so she would start getting these infections inside of her fingers, and because she couldn't feel her fingers because of this disease, um, it would get to the point to where these things would get necrotic and they would have to be cut off. And she lost eight eight of her 10 digits, um, almost completely. Um, she did not have very many fingers left there at the end, but she did not lead a very good life at all. It was very hard for her. But she kept moving. She kept pushing through. She kept going. She also had diabetes, very bad, which I think was something that led to what was going on with her body, and she didn't she didn't do anything about it. She kept living the life the way she wanted to live her life. Didn't try to cut out sugars. Didn't try to change her ways. Just would not listen to us whenever we would tell her, this may be hurting you. Eventually, to the point, though, that she had problem in her feet. And whether it was her neuropathy, her treatments, her diabetes, whatever, it came around to where she had an infection in the back of her foot, in her ankle. She couldn't walk, was having a hard time with it. The doctors were talking about possibly taking off her foot, and she would have to have a something to put on it, um, to where she could walk again. Or she may lose the leg. Well, eventually, she had a blood clot form in her leg, and this was a couple years back. I am not going to talk about current events and current things that people are taking, but for all my conspiracy-minded people out there that understand what I'm saying, you know where this is going. So she developed a blood clot in her leg, and the doctor said, well, that's our sign that leg probably needs to come off. So she also lost her leg as well, because everything. And she was having a hard time. Plus, in 2020, my stepfather, her second husband, he passed away. He died of a blood clot. Actually, that was last year. It was 2021, because he died in May of 21. Yeah. So it's been a rocky road for her, and she's made it through it, but at the same time, she had given up a lot. Wasn't paying her bills. wasn't paying her bills, um, wasn't doing the things that you would think that she would need to do to exist in life. She was retired, so she was making money, but she had just let things slip for like a whole year after my stepfather died. She just let it all go. Wasn't paying, didn't do her taxes, uh, didn't pay her bills, everything. We have been going through her mail, and we have been finding out that she is basically $400 in the hole to everybody, at least. You know, I don't know how I don't know how a person racks up an $800 cable bill, but she did it. I don't know how, but she did it. So we are we are sifting through that at the same time as getting her arrangements made. We had to. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a little bit. Towards the end, though, the reason that I am trying to find the right words to say here is when I came to God, when I came to Christ and asked Him to save me and to show me the better way, to show me the truth of this world, she saw something change in me. At first, she was scared. Um, Went through the whole process. Are you in a cult? Are you a certain type of religion? I don't understand this. What does this mean? Why are you doing this? Why are you talking about this, talking about that? Why are you giving up all these holidays? Why are you not eating pork anymore? She didn't understand it. But she saw she saw the light change within me, and she wanted to find that for herself. And 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, no, 3 years ago, I would say, she told me she had started reading the Bible. She wanted to read it her way. She wanted to understand it her way. She didn't want me to tell her anything. She wanted to find it for herself. So I was so proud of her. I said, "Mom, that's awesome. That's amazing. That is such a good idea, because you will find so much truth and so much peace and comfort, and God will heal you if you allow Him." What she studied, how she read it, if she prayed to God, I don't know. I don't know what her relationship with God was. I don't know what her relationship with Christ was. I know that she would call up and we would talk about it. Not a lot, but it was enough that we were able to have a conversation about the Bible. And it was a beautiful thing. My mom, who had notoriously been anti-religion her entire life, not so much anti-God, but just trying to find more about it, had made the turn just like I did. She was finding her way spiritually, and it was beautiful. Okay, before I go on, the time, we've talked about this before, and I think that it's a glitch in the system, but the recording time on OBS or Streamlabs has stopped again at 8 minutes and 40 seconds. So I'm hoping that all of this gets through. If it doesn't, then I don't know. I don't know. I hate when it does it though, because I don't know if it's all going through or not. Anyways, back to the story. But it seemed like she was honestly and truthfully making a turn, and I loved it, and I thanked her for it, and it was an amazing thing. Um, She always, sadly though, harbored anger, frustration, could not find forgiveness. Um, Especially with people that had wronged her. Um, she and I had this talk many times. I said, the hardest thing that you can do in this journey, finding God, having God heal you, is forgiveness. It's the number one thing, and it's hard because it goes against your natural understanding of the world, and it is a sign. It is a sign that you're truly ready to do something else. And I told her that being able to forgive, to really truly forgive, to wash that anger and hatred and animosity, that's the word I'm looking for, away, is to find that forgiveness and that peace and forgiveness and start healing. And it always seemed like she never could find that. She always had a problem with somebody. And I told her that's the one thing you need to find. And I don't know if she found it at the end or not. I really don't. It's the one thing I tell everybody. Forgiveness is that first step. To be able to forgive is one of the divine steps, the true number one steps, because it allows you to start fresh, to start new, to make peace. And sometimes the people that you want to forgive don't want to forgive you, and hey, that's entirely possible. But it's such an amazing change in your body whenever you do that, and you're able to open up lines of communication again and become better. But I don't know if she was ever able to truly do that or not. But she was trying. I could see that she was, in other ways, that she was trying to find answers because she had gone through a lot. She had struggled. Like I said, her entire life, half of her entire life, she had really struggled with what was going on. And I, I felt for her. I really did. But last Friday, well, last Thursday, actually, um, because we had been planning this trip down to Florida, because she's selling a house in Florida. She was trying to sell her land in Florida because she lives in Indiana now. Um, but she was trying to sell her house in Florida, and she was going to have us drive down to Florida to pick up the remaining things that she had down there. Um, some sentimental things, some keepsakes. There's still some things in Florida that I need to go back down and get. Um, but we were planning this trip because we had taken the whole week off. This was supposed to be our vacation because my wife and I had said we need to have a just a some time to ourselves because we're kind of burning out at work. And it wasn't 4 hours later. I've said this story. I don't know how many times I've said this story, but it wasn't 4 hours later after we got approved for our vacation time from work. Mom called up and asked and said, "I'm closing on the house on the 15th. I need you to go down and get some stuff out of the house." or we need to go down and get stuff out of the house. And this was like 2 weeks prior to, last week. And we had just laughed about it because, we just made vacation time. We just did that. But we spent the 2 weeks trying to figure out how we were going to get down there, talking about all kinds of things, trying to do things. Eventually came up with a plan that, my wife and I were going to drive down. We were going to spend the whole week in Florida, take our time, go check out some stuff, do stuff, have fun, whatever. And it came down to the Thursday 2 weeks ago where I had to call Mom and I had to ask her, what are we going to do? We need money. We need to make sure we have money to be able to go because we can't afford this. We have some money, but we don't have enough that we can rent a car and do the whole thing, or rent a truck and do the whole thing. And so I called her up on Thursday, and she said she was in a lot of pain. She said she was throwing up. She said she was in a lot of pain, and she was really tired, really weak, and loopy. And we've had this happen before. This has happened with her before, and it's usually because of some kind of mix of medicines that she had done, because she takes so many pills. Some for her neuropathy, some for her pain, some for her heart. She has high blood pressure. She has insulin shots that we found. I never knew she had insulin shots, but she does. She has all these things that she has to constantly take. And she's done this before where she's just, she's had a bad day. And her treatments were right around the corner. Usually, a week before her treatments, she's got problems. So we just have to kind of hold on and get through it. But I called her on Thursday and she was just so out of it. And she was not altogether there. Sounded like she needed sleep. Was slurring her words, was talking weird. And I asked her on the phone, I said, Mom, are you going to be okay? And she said, yeah, I just need to sleep. So I said, okay, well then hop into bed, get to sleep. If you need anything, please call us, let us know. But I will call you back, the next day. So we let it go from there. And when I got off the phone, I just kept thinking, should we call somebody? Should I call somebody? Should we see if that was something going on? Because it just didn't feel right. And we eventually decided that we were going to let her rest. Because this has happened before. She's gone through this before. It wasn't something that was so out of the ordinary that she didn't just take a nap, maybe sleep for 12 hours, wake up the next morning, and she's, right as rain. She had her problems. So we just let it go. And we called the next day, and I couldn't get an answer. So I called her back an hour later, could not get an answer. So the third hour came, and I called, and I couldn't get an answer, and I started getting worried. I said, Mom's just not answering the phone. Maybe she's out at the store with my grandma, because they go to the store sometimes. Maybe she's doing whatever. My grandma lives in the house next door, but they don't really talk to each other very much. Only whenever they need to go out and do stuff. My grandmother has dementia, by the way. My grandmother does not know who I am, so it's hard to talk to her because strangers scare her. Therefore, I scare her. It's pretty sad. But it got to that point to where I said, okay, I have to call my grandmother to see if maybe, she's out. They're out doing something. Who knows? It's Friday night. Who knows? They could be out with the family. It's entirely possible. So I called her up. I called up Grandma. Could not get a hold of her either. And that's when I started getting worried. That's when I really started worrying what's going on. I called both of Grandma's phones, her house phone and her cell phone. Couldn't get a hold of her. I called Mom again. Could not get a hold of her. And by this time it was, what was it? 7, 8 o'clock. I think it was 7 o'clock. And we started calling her about 4 or 5. Trying to get a hold of her. Couldn't get a hold of her. And eventually I had to call one of my aunts. And I asked her what was going on. And she said she hadn't heard anything. She said she had just gotten off the phone with my grandmother. And I said, well, that's why I couldn't get a hold of my grandmother. Is because, she was talking on the phone. She wasn't answering her phone. So we got a hold of her, got back a hold of my grandmother, asked her if she would go over to the house and check on Mom. And she went over at 7 o'clock at night, 7:30, 7 o'clock, somewhere around there. And then we lost track of everything. There was no answer for 2 hours. And we said, what is going on? You got to remember my grandmother has dementia. So she calls back at 9 o'clock. She calls my aunt, who then calls me and says, you should probably call a hospital, call an ambulance because your mom is unresponsive. She apparently was stuck somewhere in a house. I don't know where. I didn't get the details, but she couldn't move. She couldn't respond. She was, she had her eyes open and just looking around, but she couldn't focus on anything. And was not able to talk, was not able to speak, even though I've heard it several different ways now. But, she just could not move. So they decided to take her, put her in the ambulance, and in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, she had a cardiac event. And they had to use CPR to get her back to life. And they think that when she had that event, that it damaged her brain. That was the last final step, pretty much is what I was kind of told, is she may have had a seizure or a stroke caused by the infection and sepsis in her blood. And it caused her brain to shut down, or damaged her brain enough that she was still functioning, but she wasn't able to respond or understand anything. But the heart attack or whatever it was, her heart shutting down was the last thing that damaged her brain enough that they didn't think that she was going to be able to come back. So they took her to the hospital and put her on a temperature machine because her temperature was so high. And what they do is they put you on that machine to keep you cool, to cool your body down, in order to preserve your brain function. Because if you've had a stroke, they want to make sure that they can keep it down. At the same time, her blood pressure was extremely low. Her blood sugar level was extremely high. And what was the other one? I cannot remember, but they had to sedate her. They basically put her into a coma for 72 hours. And that was probably the hardest 72 hours that we could have. The biggest problem of all that is because she did not have me as an emergency contact, trying to get the nurses to give me any information was a nightmare, because I had to be a primary contact because they could not prove that I was her son. So what little information I could get, I wasn't supposed to get anyways. So I couldn't get any information about my own mother in the hospital. Not only that, the one person that could vouch for me was my grandmother, who was the only person of contact. She didn't know who I was. So I had nobody to vouch for me to be able to find out what was going on with my mother in the hospital. It was the worst 3 days of my life. Finally, though, they got me a social worker that was able to verify me so that I could get information, because they said they kept trying to call my grandmother and they couldn't get through. And I said, yeah, it's because she won't answer her phone. She has dementia. What do you expect? So they finally get a hold of me, and they said that they've taken her off of the temperature machine and pulled her out of sedation, and she is unresponsive. She is able to, I heard it two ways, open her eyes and flutter her eyes, but she is not able to focus. She can't lift her hands. She can kind of twitch. She has pain responses, but her kidneys are not working. And I had to find out on my own that there is a link between brain damage and kidney failure. And they said that they told me that because her kidneys are not working, they don't think that there is a good chance that she could pull out of this. They said what's probably going to have to happen is she's going to have to go on dialysis in order to keep her alive. But the EEG that they took, just based off of what they saw on that, they said they don't think that there's going to be any higher brain functions anymore. And they said it will never be the same. She will never be the same person ever again. That it will be a dialysis machine constantly. And that will be her life. Not only just the pain, missing a leg, missing her fingers, but she will be in a home where she has to have dialysis 3 to 4 times a week. Not to mention if she can even speak again. It'll never be the same. So they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, give me 24 hours. So we went to see her. We went to the hospital to actually talk to a doctor. We got to talk to the doctor. We got to have the full deal. We actually got to go in and talk to him. And yes, I had to wear a mask. No, I'm not proud of myself. But we got to get it from him and, find out what was going on and everything that I had. 2 doctors and 2 nurses talk to me. And every single one of them told me that none of it looks good. None of it looks good at all. That since they brought her in, every day that they had her in there, her prognosis just kept getting worse and worse. And the doctor said, you have 24 hours to figure out what you want to do. Whether we continue on with dialysis and keep her alive to where she may never be the same person again, or we, maybe comfort her and you know, let things happen the way that they happen. So we had a pretty rough 24 hours. I called everybody. I called just about all of my family, trying to figure out what we think mom would want. Because mom didn't leave a will. Mom didn't leave a will. Mom didn't leave any kind of instructions. Nothing. We were calling people up trying to find her lawyer, if she had one, which we don't think she does. We were trying to find a will anywhere, trying to find anyone that would know if she had something like that. We could not find anything. It was terrible. Digging through her house, digging through her storage unit, digging through everything that she owned, trying to find anything. And you have to understand, this woman kept shoeboxes full of bills all the way back to 1998. I did not know. I did not know she did that. But she did. She kept shoeboxes full of bills. Like, you know, how they tell you to keep, 5 years of bills just in case. She kept all the way back, 98. And none of them were in any kind of order whatsoever. And then she had boxes upon boxes of just paperwork. And you have to remember that since she was selling a house in Florida, she had a storage unit full of boxes of papers that we had pulled. And it was just one thing after another, after another, after another. This was Tuesday. By this time, it was Tuesday of last week, and I had done nothing but dig through paperwork and try to find out what my mother wanted me to do for her in the hospital. But it got to the point to where we gave up. We said, "There's no will. There's no will. There's nothing here. There's nothing for us to do." And I said, "Well, it comes down to me. It comes down to me. What do I want to do?" And I called up everybody. And I asked them, I said, "What are mom's wishes? What would she want to do?" I heard a lot of different things. Some people said that, she would want to pass comfortably, that living the way that the doctors are saying that she would live is no way to live. I had heard that she would want to stay alive no matter what. To me personally, though, that sounds more heartless than anything else. The woman had gone through a lot. I just could not. I couldn't see that. The one thing I know my mother, the one thing she would not want to do is be a burden on anybody else. She had her problems. She had her flaws. She had fallen into a depression where she wasn't paying her own bills, but she would never put that on anyone else, or never want to. She was banking heavily on selling the property in Florida, which didn't go through, by the way, because she was in a hospital. She had to be alive to be able to do all this. But she was banking heavily on selling that property so that she could pay off all her bills. $100,000 could pay off a lot of debt, and she had a lot of debt. So she had everything riding on that house being sold. But she would never put the burden of taking care of her on anybody else. She wanted to do it all by herself. So my mom would not want to be stuck in a home where she couldn't talk, couldn't move, had to be wheelchaired everywhere, had to have somebody wait on her, hand and foot. That's why she never called anybody. She never called anybody to come in and help her in her house, because she didn't want that. She didn't want anybody in her house helping her. She wanted to do it herself. Stubborn to the bitter end. So Wednesday morning, I called the doctor and I told him, I said, I don't think she would want to live like that. The family doesn't think that she would want to live like that. I just want her to be at peace. I want her to be comforted. I want her to be at peace. And I want the pain to go away. So they said, okay, we will take her off life support. We will give her medications to keep her comfortable. And we think it's going to go pretty quick. So I made that decision at 11:15 in the morning on Wednesday, November the 16th, and I will probably never forget this information. And she died at 4:52 p.m. And it wasn't easy. It honestly wasn't. It wasn't easy. I wasn't there for her when she passed. I said I couldn't. I cannot handle death. We're finding that out more and more. I cannot handle people being in a hospital. I cannot handle watching it. We said our piece when we went to visit her in the hospital. I said my piece. I had my moments. I was good, but I said I can't. I can't do it. I can't be in the room with her. One of my cousins, one of her nieces, was actually in the room with her when she went. That was the only other person that got to see her in the hospital. No one else in my family went to see my mother in the hospital. That's been another part of this tragedy, too. But I have gone through every scenario in my head on to whether I did the right thing or not. And I have to keep telling myself that her body was shutting down. In the end, on Wednesday morning when I called them up to ask them how she was doing, they said that everything had turned worse. That even though her heart was strong, everything else in her body was shutting down. They said that her kidneys were getting worse. They said that her blood pressure had gotten really low again, and that her lungs were now starting to not function properly. She was rejecting the machines. They said that she was overbreathing, which means that her lungs were not functioning the way that they should be. At least that's the way they told me. They said that no matter what, whatever we would have done to keep her alive would have been delaying the inevitable, because her body just kept shutting down more and more and more. And I made that choice. I may or may not regret that for the rest of my life, but I had to make that choice. In the aftermath, again, we keep finding more and more bills, more and more things she didn't pay, more and more problems that we're having to reconcile. Not only that, there was no will, so there is no proof that any of her stuff can come to me, which means that everything goes into probate, which means we had to find a probate lawyer in order for me to get her in order for me to be able to get her properties. And hope that it doesn't all get taken by the state. Um We had no money to be able to bury her with because she didn't make any plans. So we had to call up everybody in the family that we could and ask and help, you know, to ask to help, to do something, funerals. Everybody kept asking, well, when are you going to bury her? Do we have services or there's going to be a memorial? What's going to happen? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never done this before. Mom didn't set anything up for us. We're having to do it ourselves. A funeral can be upwards of $10,000 to $12,000. I don't have that kind of money. So we asked everybody we could. There was nothing. Nobody wanted to help. We couldn't get anyone to help us with this. The hospital called me at 8 o'clock on, what was it? Friday morning. Called me at 8 o'clock Friday morning asking me what we were going to do with my mother because we're not a storage facility. The most just really, is this how people treat each other? I have the hardest thing through this whole ordeal has been how callous people are about death. Especially I have been treated so rudely over the past week because my mother has been in the hospital, because my mother has passed away. Very few people have given me any sympathy whatsoever. The only people that have given me sympathy are the people that I had to pay money to. The funeral directors, the funeral people, the people at the mortuary that we went to, they treated us fairly because we were giving them money. It's been absurd. It's been a nightmare. But yeah, we had the hospital call us up. Oh, we're not a storage facility. What are you going to do with your mother? It's like, oh my God. So we had to get funeral or some kind of arrangements together as quick as possible. We had no money, nothing. Family wouldn't help us. Everybody wanted to call people and help us, but it's like, no, we don't need people to call anybody else. We don't need to worry about her debt. We don't need to worry about paying her bills. We don't need to worry. We need to bury my mother. So eventually it came down to the cheapest option. And I don't know what she would want. I really don't know what my mother would have wanted because she didn't leave anything. So eventually we had to go with a cremation, a direct cremation with no services. How much was it? $2,500, I think. We had to take out a personal loan. we had to take a personal loan, which my bank would not cover. It had to be my wife's bank. My wife's bank, thank God, came in at the very last second to be able to give us a personal loan just so we could do something with my mother. It came to the point to where people were starting to say, well, maybe we'll just let the state cremate her. I mean, really, that's what happens. If you leave a body in the hospital long enough, the state comes in and they will take care of it. They will cremate the body. They will, I don't even know if you get the remains or not. But it's, I don't know. So we've gotten to this point now where we're starting to go through her stuff, take inventory, because we're going to have to sell stuff in order to be able to pay for all of this. We're going to have to get a hold of probate lawyers, which if anybody in Indiana, Muncie, Indiana, if anybody knows any good probate lawyers in Muncie, Indiana, please let me know. Probate lawyers, period. If it goes across state, hey, that's great, whatever. But we need help. We need help because she's got She's got property in Muncie, Indiana. She's got property in Florida. And I can't touch either one of them. Apparently, the one in Florida is $120,000. The one in Muncie might be 50. I don't know. It's a crap house. It's a craptastic house that I am not going to fix up. I'm going to sell it as is, and I'm going to walk away because I always told Mom that she shouldn't live there, but she bought it anyways. But we are taking stock of the things that she has inside of her storage unit, which we have to pay because that's if the storage unit goes down, we lose all that stuff in the storage unit. Some of that stuff in the storage unit we want. So we have to pay the storage unit, but everything else, I am not absorbing my mother's debt. I get that. I'm not absorbing her debt. But there are some things that we have to do to keep the houses running, which means I have to pay the cable bill, or not the cable bill. I have to pay the electric bill. I have to pay the gas bill. We need heat. It's cold. It's been freezing balls the whole week. Oh God, it's just been a nightmare. We set up a GoFundMe to help. And it's been amazing that the only people that have been helping us with the GoFundMe are friends. No family, as far as I could tell yet. I'm sure there's probably family in there somewhere, but it's been all of my wife's friends, my wife's family so far, which is the most amazing thing ever. Is my family is so broken apart that they will not help each other, and these are complete strangers that are helping me, and it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. But I don't ask for money. I'm not going to beg for money. I'm going to put that link in the description of this video. If anybody wants to, they can. If not, that's cool. I'm not worried about it. I am expecting, I'm expecting sympathy, and I'm so sorry and all that. I've been getting that constantly. It's amazing how many people. I posted something on my mom's my mom's Facebook, because she's got her Facebook. I posted something there that's just like, this is her son. I'm just here saying, she passed away, yada yada yada, all that stuff. And I didn't look at it until yesterday, when my wife said, "Hey, you should go look at that." And I was like, "Why?" She said, "Because you really sparked something." So I looked, and it's like 160 something replies. It's just people that I had not heard of in years were on there, and it was all sympathy. And it just, it makes you understand your place in life. She touched a lot of people. She really did. She was a teacher. She was one of the good teachers. Really cared about her students. Really cared about her students, doing the best that they can. And she did a lot for the community, and did a lot for trying to help her kids out and do what she could. So a lot of people knew her. And it was a small town too. I mean, where I grew up in Florida, was maybe 15,000 people. I don't even know. But it was a lot of people. Just, came out of nowhere. Surprised me. But that's where we are. And we're still picking up the pieces. And I can't blame her. I mean, I understand. She fell into some problems. Had her faults. I only wish that she could have planned just a little bit more. could have involved me in her plans for her life a little bit more than she did. And if there's any one thing that has come out of this, so many people have said, you know, we're making sure that we have our arrangements together so that our kids don't have to go through this. And, it's kind of, on my end, it's kind of empty. It's like, oh, well, I'm glad that you're able to learn from my experiences, but that doesn't, it doesn't do me any good. Um, I have to put this in God's hands now. I have to pray to Him that He will get us through this, help us through this, and hope that whatever comes of it is whatever comes of it. Again, it's a dumpster fire. I called it a dumpster fire several times. It's been a dumpster fire of an experience. Every time I turn around is something new. And we're going into week 2 of it. And I am still getting hassled by her real estate agent down south, who has, because she has lost the ability to be able to sell the house, it has become a mountain of paperwork to try to pay back this company that was buying the property, because we can't sell it anymore, because again, it has to go to probate, because mom couldn't sell it in time, and it couldn't be written over to me because mom was in a coma. So I don't get to become the executor of her estate, because there is nothing on any formal paperwork that says that I am. I inherited nothing. I inherited nothing. I got nothing out of my problems, or I got nothing out of mom's death. Come back to God saying, surely we have inherited lies. I'll come back to God saying, surely I have inherited nothing, because there was nothing there for me, because she didn't plan ahead. It's crazy. Anyways, I wanted to leave this whole thing off by saying that it's never too late to turn yourself towards God, which is what mom was trying to do. She was trying. I don't know if she was I don't know how she was doing it, or what she was doing, but she was finding her own way. And like I said, she was calling me up and she was asking me what this means. What does that mean? Why is this? Why is that? And it was really, really nice. But now, I don't know. I can only pray to the Father that He gives her the comfort and peace in death that she couldn't find in life. And the one phrase that I had, that I've pulled from this whole thing, that I've been able to say several times, the one that really, really struck out to me, which I had to look up today. It's Revelation 21:4. Something I said in the car on the way back, because where we live and where Muncie is an hour away. So I had to drive an hour to Muncie and an hour back. So that's 2 hours on the road. That's a lot of thinking time. I've done that just about every day this week. Last week, I should say. Last week. And I'm probably going to do it at least 3 or 4 times this week, too. I don't know. But the one phrase that I took from all this that I remember that the Bible told me is it's Revelation 21:4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. The Bible promises us God will take away the pain. He will take away the tears from the eyes, and the suffering, and the crying, and the sorrow, and the misery of this world. God promises us that He will take away the pain. And she endured enough. She endured enough pain. She endured enough sorrow. And she doesn't have to live with the pain of this world anymore. Somebody said that she doesn't have to live with the evils and the nightmare of this world anymore. And I said something along the lines of when Rob Skiba died, somebody said that Rob gets to answer the big questions now. He gets to find the answers to the big questions that we couldn't answer ourselves. Hopefully that's what Mom gets to see. She gets to find the truth that she was looking for, because she was looking for it. So hopefully she gets to see it, and all I can do is ask God to not only forgive her for not giving up her animosity, for not finding that forgiveness in her heart, to take away her pain, to wipe away the tears from her eyes, to give her a new body, give her a new life, new existence, so that she can be better than this world. This world. She can find whatever she needs to find in the next world. And that's all I got. That's all I got. Jeez. It has not been a good week. I have not been having my moments with God the way that I need to. I have not been praying. I have been so consumed by this. This is the first time I've been able to sit down and really think about it. I've been so consumed with this. Ugh. Just when you think that you can't find any more tears in there, there's more tears in there. Anyways. Father, take care of her. Give her the comfort and peace she couldn't find in this world, because this world did nothing to her but hurt her. Thank you, Mom, for giving me all the support you ever gave me. Giving me love, life, whatever happiness I could have. And I will see you when my time comes. Whatever God's will is, we will find that out. Thank you guys for listening. I needed to get it out. Some people won't hear it, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't imagine a lot of people want to sit around and listen to me talk about my mother passing for an hour. But I just needed to say it. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks to everyone for the. Thanks to everyone pre. Let me just pre-thank everyone. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for the sympathy. I've had so many people reach out and tell me how sorry they feel for me, and I thank you very much. Again, we are struggling right now to get everything together. We are looking for help, if at all possible. We are looking for probate lawyers. We're looking for anyone that can tell us the steps we need to take in order to settle her estate. Um, we are looking for any donations to help us pay for the things that we have done. Um, I'm not. I don't like asking for money. I don't. I don't like asking for money, so I'm not asking for money. I'm really not. Sympathy is fine. Help is what we need right now. More than anything, just help. So, thank you for listening. I will. I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care of yourselves. If you are older, to the point, if you are old enough and to the point that you may have more years behind you than you have ahead of you, and you have children, set something up for them. Let them make sure they know where to find it. Don't let them be like me. Don't let them struggle when the time comes and you have no idea where anything is. Because this has been a nightmare. This has been an actual nightmare. And it's still ongoing. Like I said, we've still got another month or two of this ahead of us, and we still don't know where to turn. And we're having so many problems. But you guys take care of yourselves. Love you all. God bless.